What we're going to do now is attach this parachute, but before that I'm going to inspect it, as it's much easier for me to fix a parachute if it's not attached to a rig. So we'll look for any damage first. It's really quite straightforward. All you do is inspect everything on the equipment. So you look for any holes, tears, missing or loose stitches, missing or loose bar tacks. Check that the condition of the line is adequate for the customer's needs, whether it's the next 100 jumps or the next 300 jumps. And just be methodical as you go through it. It doesn't really matter which order you do that inspection in, but my advice is develop a system and then stick to it. That way you won't miss things. And don't forget to look at the slider grommets, especially if you're using one of the aramide lines, as they do have a tendency to wear through the slider grommets, and if you don't catch it, it'll cost you a line set. Now, I usually start by putting my control lines on. I make sure they're going through the appropriate slider grommet, and then this is a favorite mistake, people forget to put it through the guide ring that's on your riser. The loop then passes through the grommet on your toggle, and the bottom end of the toggle goes through the loop. Whoa, okay. And snug it back up, and make sure that the line is running naturally so it pulls out of the back side of the toggle towards the guide ring. Same on both sides. And just to reinforce what I just said, don't go the short way, don't go just over the top of the toggle like so. These can come off, and if it does, it's kind of funny watching the person coming into the land waving their arms about and screaming, which actually doesn't do anything for the flare. They'd be better off using rear risers, but it is funny. And now, in no particular order, I'll start with the rear right line group, and I'm going to make sure that the continuity, that is to say making sure that the lines are going in the correct sequence from its position on the parachute to its position on the link. So what I just said was, I'm going to make sure that the outboard line has an outboard position on the link, and the inboard line has an inboard position on the link, and everything in between. I'll then put the connector link, in this case, onto the riser, and I'll just start the barrel rolling up. I'm going to just put it so it's just touching right now. I'll then do the same with the front riser and the other risers. So now let's take more of a macro look at the orientation of the links. Typically the openings are facing inside, with the threads towards the canopy, barrels towards the container. Now certainly some instructions have you orientate them with the openings all one way or the short side down. Just make sure you do it in accordance with the manual and no side loading. And now before I tighten up the links, I'm going to just do a last double check, making sure that everything is going to its position without taking a circuitous route around or through something other than the appropriate slider grommet. What we'll do now is take some of this blue thread locking compound and put it onto each of the threads. Remember to use the blue, not the red, because the blue will come off the red. You're going to end up cutting those links off. Get a little bit on the threads. Don't go too crazy. We can now roll the barrels up till they're hand tight. And then you can either do it by taking a wrench and putting about a quarter turn on it, Or if you want to be fancy dancy, you can use a calibrated torque wrench and set it at its correct tension, which is 20 to 30 inch-pounds. All that remains for you to do now is double check your work, then pack that bad boy up and go jump it. See ya.